it's delayed gratification, isn't it? If you have a pot of cash in your account, you're going to end up spending it on something at some point. You may come across and be like, oh, you know what, I have the money, I might as well just go on this holiday. The idea is to put that money into something where it's hard, it's more difficult to use it. When you get to the age where you kind of, you want to have a bit more fun, you can do that because you've got essentially passive income that can fund your lifestyle. If you don't put your money to some sort of investments, you'll just end up spending it on.
From behind the camera to a property portfolio worth over £1 million before the age of 21. Now, he was our videographer. He watched everything, documented our journey for the last 2 years. Now he's soaked it all up, and most importantly, he's implemented it. In this video, we sit down with Ronnie Koldashi to understand how he started, how he went from school to being a videographer, getting into property, what he's actually learned, what it actually means to be so young in property, and what it actually takes to implement what you learn to actually building £1 million portfolio. Now, welcome, Ronnie. Thanks for being here.
Who's recording this video?
I don't think we've got a ghost scripter here. It must be funny to be on the other side of this today.
Yeah, it's quite weird, to be fair. I think over the last year, obviously, we started producing our own content, and it feels quite weird to actually be in front of the camera rather than behind it.
So most people, for us, we actually obviously know you. You're like family to us. And anyone that's attended our events will know who you are. And the videography has been on point. And it's been clear to see, like, you're in like one of these top 1% of videographers that understands how to capture a moment. And if I look at your video, or if any of my family or friends look at it, they understand, look, there's a sense of FOMO. I should have been there. Now, let's just take it back a little bit. Let's go into, who you are, where you started before all the videography.
Yeah, so I think I've always been an entrepreneur since I was young. I started like everyone does, I started selling sweets at school, year 7, 8, 9, just to make a little bit of change. In year 11, I started a clothing brand that failed, partnered with my friend. I think we put in about 90 quid each, found some supplier on Alibaba, made a design, bought the clothes. It didn't work out. We couldn't sell the clothes anyways. And then I think a few years later, where I really had my sort of big break, I guess, or my first piece of success, was when I started reselling trainers. And essentially what I was doing was I was buying Yeezys, Jordans, anything that there was hype around, I was buying them and reselling them for a profit. And then obviously during that period, I was using Instagram and to promote these shoes and sell these shoes. I was selling on Depop and all these other platforms. So I think when I first got my understanding of social media and the power of social media was through reselling. And then obviously at the time I was going to a media school, and what happened was around 2023, reselling really started to die. So I think the country went into a difficult time. So people had a lot less like expendable income. So you found that people weren't really buying luxuries anymore and whatnot. And the stuff that you could profit on, like the Yeezys I'm wearing today, you could profit about £200 on these previously. Now you find them on discount. So the market dipped, and I was still at college, and I was just looking for opportunities. So what they used to do was every Friday they used to send an email with a bunch of just work experience, and I was applying to all of them. And then this one Friday, I seen an email, and it was from Savoy's Properties. They said they were looking for a social media manager. I thought, this is easy enough. And my whole idea was I wanted to be around, people who are doing something, people that I can learn from. So I was like, okay, cool, property and social media management. I was like, oh, yeah, easy enough, I can do it. So I applied, and then I got a call from Hardeep. And he called me and he goes, he was like, oh, are you Ronnie? I was like, yeah. I was like, I applied for the social media management role. He goes, oh, we're not looking for a social media manager. We're looking for a videographer. He was like, do you know what you're doing? At the time, I'd never touched a camera in my life. I was like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. He goes, so you got a portfolio? I was like, nah, but let me go down to one of your sites and I'll shoot something. And then I booked in a site, a shoot. I didn't have any equipment, had to blag it to the school because you needed training to borrow the equipment. I had to blag it to the school, ended up borrowing the equipment. And then, yeah, when I went down, shot the video, it was atrocious. The video was so rubbish. And I knew it was bad because Hardy stopped replying to me. I kept following up. And then where I first met you was the commercial to Resi Day. This was December 2022, because Hardy was like, look, we've got a videographer right now. If you want to come down and shadow him and see what he's doing so you can build up a bit of experience. I was like, cool. So I went down, obviously met yourself, Sanjay. And then from there, I was like, yeah, I want to be a part of this world. Like, I'm learning so much just by being behind the camera. The whole goal for me, the reason I said that long story was the whole goal for me, I think, getting into videography, and the reason I doubled down on it was because I saw the opportunity of getting into the right rooms and learning from people. Because the biggest goal for me was to be around people like yourself so I could learn. Because I think the end goal isn't just videography, you know, it's what's past that. What can you do with your money past that, you know?
So did you have an interest for property before you started with us, or was that something that you gained a passion for as you were with us for the past few years?
Do you know what's funny, to be fair? I used to tell my friends all the time, I used to tell them, I'm going to go from flipping shoes to flipping watches to flipping houses. I didn't know what I was talking about. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I just used to say it all the time. And then weirdly, obviously, I resold shoes, resold a few watches. And then eventually, obviously, I haven't flipped houses, but obviously I've bought, you know, or have a portfolio of houses now. So, and then weirdly, I ended up getting into the property space, but I didn't have an understanding at all of the property world. I just had that kind of, I think that perception of everyone's like, oh, you have to get into property, you have to get into property. That's where the real money is. So it was just, I kind of had that idea of, oh, at some point I want to look at property, but it wasn't anything like, I didn't go to any programs. I didn't really watch any videos on it. I just had that idea of like, oh, this is what wealth is.
And what gives you that perception that wealth or financial freedom is from property?
I don't know. Do you know what? It's because I grew up in Hayes Town, so you don't really see too many opportunities where I grew up. I think you just hear people talking now and then. You're like, oh, this person bought a house and, you know, he's earning X amount from rent. Oh, this person owns that store. Or, oh yeah, there's one man that owns a majority of Hayes Town. So you just think, wow, like, who are these people? Because you don't get to meet them. You don't get to speak to them.
Now, let's go back and step back to that first deal, because I know obviously a lot about it. But that deal wasn't really supposed to be for you. It was, in my perception, it was something that came across. Now, do you want to let the viewers hear a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I think, so naturally what ended up happening was, so I was following you guys around like basically 7 days a week. Like every day we was filming something, we was going somewhere. You guys would invite me to like dinners or meetings with the bank, with your builders, or I was literally just like attached to you guys 7 days a week. So I'll see everything, the meetings, the negotiations, the on-site, the viewings. So naturally I was just like, I kept asking you guys, I was like, oh, I've got, you know, X amount of money saved up. When can I get a deal? When can I get a deal? And so it was about 60 grand at the time. And I think you guys were like, oh, that's not enough for like a HMO. You know, maybe you could get like a buy-to-let, but that's not enough for a HMO. And around that time is when Adriana started, I think the partnership with Savoy's North came about. And we had just done an event at the Selfridges Brasserie of Light. We had just done the event there for Savoy's Club with a bunch of entrepreneurs. It was a great event. And after the event, after we was done filming and whatnot, I was sat down. I think it was me, you, Sanjay, and Adriana, if I can remember correctly. And we sat down, just having a few drinks. Sanjay goes to me, Ronnie, I've got a deal. Do you want it? I was like, all right, what are the numbers? He was like, he listed out the numbers. He was like, do you want it? Yes or no? I was like, all right, cool, I'll take it. He was like, if it flops, I'll buy it off you. So I was like, all right, cool. And then, so I'd agreed to it. And then after I started myself, I was like, what have I agreed to? I was like, oh. But then in my head, I'm like, once I've agreed to something, I have to follow through with it. So I was like, cool, let's just see what happens. And yeah, so we purchased the property for 296,000. It was an 8-bed HMO in Sunderland. So the property was an existing 8-bed HMO in Sunderland, but it was very run down because the landlord hadn't refurbed it for years. He was quite an older man. He was looking to retire, looking to get out of the game. And yeah, so we picked it up for 296,000. It was in an Article 4 area, 8 bedrooms, a 10-minute walk from the uni. And then it didn't need much of a refurb because we didn't need to add any more rooms, add any en-suites or anything. So £60,000 refurb. And then the original valuation that we got at the start with Carl was 475. And then at the end, when I was coming to refinance, Carl called me. He's like, oh yeah, by the way, they pushed the valuation up to 490. So that was a pleasant surprise. And then, yeah, so got it revalued at 490, and it produces £58,000 a year gross, and obviously net is 23.
Now, I think that is an outstanding deal. If you're not already going to do, I think you should be entering this into one of the several awards that are out there. And obviously, we're helping and are part of the Property Investor Awards, the National Property Awards. So that is something that should be in there. I just want to just touch on a couple of points just for the viewers that are out there that may not understand. So this actual deal was an existing HMO. It was in an Article 4 area. Article 4 is a directive that is pushed out by the council where they think the area may be saturated with HMOs, so they put this restriction on so there's no new entrants. And if I'm not mistaken, what Adriana did with yourself was applied for a certificate of lawful development. So got planning to say this is actually a lawful development. It was HMO before the Article 4 directive came in. This naturally adds value to it because licensing and planning are two separate items. So this also then helps when it comes to this commercial valuation because valuers look at this. And then you guys, when you came to the refurb, so what did you actually do with it with that 60,000 that would add that value? Did you leave it the same or change some of the rooms up, add some en suites?
Yeah, so we didn't actually add any en suites. So the £6,000 was literally just like a whole just redo of the internals of the property. So like new carpets, new kitchen, it had a living room as well, so completely new living room. The bedrooms got completely redone, obviously liquor paint, yeah, new furniture, whatnot. So one got redone, the front got redone. So it was essentially just internal, like just cosmetic work, essentially.
Now that is an outstanding deal. And what was the time frame for turning this around?
Yeah, so the time frame was quite crazy. So what made this deal even better, to be fair, was the fact that I purchased it on my birthday, which was July 19th, and there's a window because it's a student HMO, so there's a window where it's completely empty for 2 weeks, which was at the end of August. But during that time, from July until the end of August, I was getting rent from the tenants that were in there previously. So obviously I got paid a chunk of rent for that month. And then during that 2 weeks where it was completely empty, we had people there every single day because that was the only time that we had a window of like opportunity to refurb it. So essentially the refurb was done within 14 days.
Now with this process, so you're at this point 19 years old? Or were you 20?
Yeah. So we started the process back in February. So I was 19. We started the process back in February. So I incorporated the company. We were going into legals, and then was going back and forth a lot. I think it took quite a while because obviously it was quite an older man as well. There was loads of documents missing that we needed to get a hold of, and he took quite a while to send it over. But we ended up actually completing on the property on July 19th. So when I turned 20. And I remember, so what happened was the solicitor was like, that day, he was like, oh, I think we might have to push it to tomorrow. I called him. I was like, Kit, it's my birthday today. I was like, just make it happen. And then I think he sent me a text like 30 minutes later, or email, sorry. He sent me the email 30 minutes later saying we've completed.
That's amazing. It's amazing. Now, it must be quite daunting. So 19, 20 years old, doing your first project, and it's not a cheap project by any means. It's close to £300,000. Obviously, you've got £60,000 build costs. Is there some nerves involved within this?
Yeah, I was myself because in my head I was like, because I've never done something like this before. Obviously, I've seen you guys do it, and it wasn't nerves of, oh, is the deal gonna work out? It was more so just, I think it was something new. It's like, oh, like, yeah, I think I knew the deal was gonna work out because I've seen it happen like time and time again. I've seen projects from when they were first, viewed to bought to development to being finished. So, and I'd seen the numbers and we got the valuation. It's more so nerves of like the unknown of not knowing what's going to come next, of not knowing like what could happen because it's your first time jumping into it.
I remember us having this conversation, obviously sit in the office on a daily basis. And I basically broke this down. I've said, this is basically the same as being a part of a football team. You could be a rookie that comes in the football team and you could be playing Real Madrid that day.
Yeah.
And you could be a bit nervous and you're actually part of Liverpool. And, you're thinking, oh, I don't know, we're going to be okay. But then you have to look at people that are within your team and you look up and you say you've got Mohamed Salah and you're like, do you know what? I think we could be okay. And I say to people, and I said to you as well, it's basically the same. Property is no different. You look at the people that are around you. You surround yourself with the right power team, and you get your assurance that you're working with these people. So Adriana is an exceptional talent. She's 25 years old, but at 25, she's actually completed 30 deals for herself and for clients at such a young age is exceptional. And I think at the moment, if I'm not mistaken, she's got like 10 deals that are on the go. Obviously, you got the likes of us. We're now hitting nearly 25 years within the industry, and we've done a lot of deals, and we've worked with the majority of the lenders that are out there. So you gain experience from that, and that then sort of eases you down. So let's break it down now. You've got your HMO now, it's done. The valuation's done.
Yeah.
What does it feel like when you get that refinance money?
It's quite an exciting feeling, to be fair, just seeing them. Do you know what it is? The whole process is quite like underwhelming at the same time. Like you feel like you're gonna get this big feeling, and then it's just like, oh, you sign a piece of paper and it's like you're in the property now. It's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
it's done. You know? And then like coming up to the refinance, it's like this big build up. Oh my god, I'm gonna get my refinance. And then you get it, it's just like a number in an account, and you're like, oh, okay.
I actually relate this to, I watched a documentary with Tyson Fury, and from a young age he said, I wanted to be a world champion. And he said basically when he was fighting, I think it was Vladimir Klitschko, he said, I knew I was going to be world champion. He goes, I fought him, I won. And he goes, I never felt so down afterwards. Because if you set yourself a goal, you're like, what do you do? And I relate property the same way. Property is like a bug. You start it, you know, you've got this thing, right, let me just secure it. So you purchase it, you do the works, and then you complete, and you get a little bit of a high, and then it's a massive low, and then you want to go again.
Do you know that? I remember you saying this to me. I remember you saying this to me, and I didn't really get it when you were saying it. But once I'd done the first deal, I was like, I understand what he means now.
Yeah. So now you completed your first deal. What did you do? So it's, when I mean you completed it, you done the purchase, you done the refurb, you done the refinance, the money's hit your bank account. And what's the first thing you do afterwards?
So the first thing I do afterwards was just look at it. No, so the first thing I done afterwards was I basically pulled up all my money. So I had roughly about 60 grand again. And obviously I had some money that I was saving up from videography as well during the whole process of legals and you know, actually purchasing the property, so, and then development. So I had about 60 grand again, and I wanted to go again and buy another property, but this time I wanted to do it down south. I just thought, why not just diversify it? Now I think I want to prioritize cash flow, and I think the next few are going to be up north, but I was like, cool, let me get one down south, and I needed about £120,000 cash. So I didn't have that, so I went JV with my business partner, Darwid, that I'm, you know, a business partner in 7 Media. We went 50-50 and acquired a property in Reading. But before, what I wanted to say was, I wanted to cut in on one of your points where you were talking about network and team and whatnot. When I went to back to my school and I was speaking like to some of the kids, and I'm like, oh, like, what would you say is the biggest thing that allowed you to do all of this? I was like, my network. Because when I've noticed a massive difference in myself from when I was hanging out with certain people, you know, back in Hayes Town, compared to, you know, when I'm around you guys. And the whole point of the camera was to get me into certain rooms so I could learn from people. And I think being around you guys is the only reason that I've been able to get onto the property, because I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know how easy it can be. It's not easy, but it can be easier, you know? And I think it's, people look at it as something that's very overcomplicated because they don't have anyone that's in the space to kind of break it down to them and simplify things and, you know, go and look at projects that are actually happening. And I feel like for most people, it's viewed as something that isn't real because they can't see it in person. But because I was able to see it, ask questions, and just see you guys doing it in real life, it made it real for myself. Even small things like, because I was saying this to one of the kids from Global, I was like, seeing Malky in the office every Sunday working, I was like, he's got everything he could ever want. I was like, I'm still starting out. So I was like, if I'm not working hard, then it's embarrassing. So it pushes you to work hard as well.
Yeah, I think basically, if you look at the most successful people, they just work because the work is their passion. And the ones I admire, they want to see what they can actually become. You've got some people and they're happy maybe with hitting a certain target, hitting a certain pay scale or a certain amount of properties, and they're happy. But I think with myself and Sanjay, it's just like, what can we become? Because obviously, like those that know our journey, we obviously came from quite humble beginnings. Growing up, parents of migrants into the country, and didn't go to the best schools or anything. And I found anything that we've got in life is an opportunity. And what do you do with it? I think in life you just got to roll the dice and play the game, and see what can come from it, and just keep pushing until it's your time to go. Now you're on your second project,
Yeah.
and we've done some filming today. We've gone to have a look at it. You're probably less than 4 weeks away from finishing. You've obviously done a commercial bout with this, so
Yeah.
So basically, Ronnie is quite smart. He's used what we do on a daily basis. You know what you purchase the property for. You already know your build costs. You know the time period it's going to take. By working with the right brokers and the right lenders, you know the exit price
Yeah.
on that, so you know how much money is going to be tied back out, how much money you're going to be able to pull back out. Now, what's your next steps? Are you going for project number 3?
Yeah, so I mean, so obviously this property, it was a 3-bed terraced house that we're converting to a 6-bed all-en-suite HMO. Obviously the Savoy's blueprint. Um, you know, and again, I think being able to jump into the HMO space with already like because sometimes I think and I look back, I'm like, if I was to have gone into this space with no knowledge, there's so many things I would have up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's the small things like the punch lock doors, the fridge freezers in every room, the built-in furniture, the whole layout of the property. Just it makes sense, but it's something you guys have built over the last 10, 15 years.
So for those that are watching it for the first time, I've never watched the Savoy's video before. We manage over 700 tenants. I think we're going to hit basically over 800 this year. And once we hit to 1,000, we'll probably reevaluate where we're going to be. But at the moment, we're managing that with actually quite a small team. So our management team consists of 5 people that are managing over 700 people within these HMOs. And the way we actually do it is by using systems, processes, reducing where a lot of time is actually lost. So as we were discussing with Ronnie just now, we're using punch locks. We're trying to reduce down the maintenance on these houses. And by doing so, it actually makes it a lot easier to manage them as they were single lets. Obviously, you're going to have some issues with them, but by actually having the right knowledge and stuff in place, you can actually save money in the long term and actually obtain the higher end exit values that you need to go on to your next site. So are you saying, Ronnie, now once you pull this money out, you're looking at site number 3?
Yeah, 100%. I think for me, the reason, obviously, I'm investing in property, and property isn't my main thing. It's obviously we have the media business, and that's our main focus in growing that, and helping property businesses and whatnot through our media company. But we take that. The idea now is we take that income and the pot of cash that we brought up there, and then invest it all into property. So then over the the next 5, 10, 20 years, we kind of have a portfolio of properties like you and Sanjay, to kind of fall back on.
No, it's a smart move. So for those that know, both myself and Sanjay were both working. We actually had a corporate career here. Sanjay worked in a family business. We kept just investing passively into some properties and stuff. And it came to a point where we were at a crossroads, and it will happen to everyone at some point, where some situations change within your life. In my situation was I had a son, and I needed some spare up some time, and I was working for a city firm. And when you're working in the city, they don't really care about family. They concerned more about what you're actually delivering between that 9 to 5, 8 to 6 sort of period. And I needed to get home to do pickups and stuff from nurseries, and it was very difficult. But luckily for myself, obviously, I built up a portfolio, and I could just say, well, I can actually now survive with it. So I ended up stepping back. So I always say to people, the benefit of property, it may not be your passion, but somewhere down the line, it could potentially be your passion, because it ends up creating stuff that you will need at a later date: financial freedom, buying time, being able to pursue your passions and stuff. So anyone that watches what we do, like myself and Sanjay, big fans of F1. You know, once or twice a year we're at some of the big races, and property has actually allowed us to do that.
It's delayed gratification, isn't it? If you have a pot of cash in your account, you're going to end up spending it on something at some point. You may come across and be like, oh, you know what, I have the money, I might as well just go on this holiday. The idea is to put that money into something where it's hard, it's more difficult to use it. When you get to the age where you kind of, you want to have a bit more fun, you can do that because you've got essentially passive income that can fund your lifestyle. If you don't put your money to some sort of investments, you'll just end up spending it on that.
No, 100%. And I have to say, look, having like Ronnie part of the team, he's like a little brother to us, but he's actually taught us something as well at our age that, obviously we've had many experiences and still having many experiences, and we're used to dealing with issues and we're used to problem solving. And these experiences can actually be very valuable for those that are actually starting their journey. And it's one of the reasons why we want to now push more on helping people within their journey within property and making it more accessible for us to help people, whether it be like bi-weekly calls, in-person events, site visits, basically just showing what we're doing. So this is something that we're going to be looking to ramp up. And then I have to say, and it's as a result of just working with Ronnie and listening to him on a daily basis, seeing some of the challenges that he had, some of the questions he had, some of the questions he had with valuation reports, or even signing personal guarantees. This type of stuff, I realized for us now, because we've been doing it for the past 24 years, it's something that we're so used to where we understand it. But for someone just starting off, maybe on their first project, or even if they've had some buy-to-lets and they want to now scale up to a HMO or a commercial residential, it's actually quite a big leap. But we're in that position where we can actually give back, and we've been doing so on an effective basis with a lot of in-person events, educational events like the Elevate series, where we had no selling but providing consistent value upon value. And we've taken this up and down the country. And for us, we want to scale this model up as well, where we can actually now help a lot more people and hopefully create a lot more Ronnies.
Do you know what it is as well? I think property is trying to do it yourself. It's a space where you can make a lot of expensive mistakes. You can make a lot of expensive mistakes from, not reading the legal pack properly, it's a space where you can make a lot of buying a property in a HMO property, or something you want to convert to HMO in Article 4 area, not knowing these mistakes, or not having someone that can guide you through it is you can end up making some really, really costly mistakes. And I think that's why I've been so grateful that I had that phone call from Hardeep, and I went down this journey, and you guys were the first people that I met in property, because I don't think I would have the portfolio right now, because I wouldn't have had the confidence to go out and purchase it and develop it and, go through that whole process.
To be honest, like Hardeep to us, again, is like a little brother. He actually reached out to us when we just initially started playing around with social media. We were just posting our sites. He was actually both quite local to where we were doing our developments, reached out, and just after lockdown said, look, can we just meet for a drink and just discuss what you're doing? I think I can add value. And this guy had no experience in property at all. He had a lot of aptitude to learn. We just basically allowed him to shadow us with what we were doing. Then he became so valuable to us. We got him involved with the development side of our business, just working with clients. He picked things up so quickly that ended up doing deal after deal, and the deals that he's ended up picking up just with the knowledge that we were able to share, he's been able to pull his money out deal after deal. He's done, first deal was it was a commercial, but it was the freehold with some residential uppers, which he converted to an all-en-suite HMO in Acton. Then he did an office to cottage conversion in Reading, and he's then gone on back-to-back deals in Reading. Ended up winning Property Investor of the World. He's won International Property Award as well. So it just goes to show, just having that right guidance around can actually allow someone to flourish. And for us, I think it's amazing for us to see other people doing so well within the space just from learning from us.
What I was saying to someone, I was like, hang around Malky and Sanjay enough, you might just accidentally buy HMO. Because you know, the saying is so true. You know, you are the 5 people you surround yourself with. Because I've found myself picking up knowledge that isn't necessarily common knowledge, but to me, I feel like it's common knowledge because I was around you guys every day, and because, you know, I heard you guys talking about like certain things, or looking for deals, or going on viewings, or, you know, negotiating. It became common knowledge.
And this is not to say that we've never made any mistakes. We've made a lot of mistakes. Unfortunately, the time that myself and Sanjay were coming up,
you can make the mistakes, so I don't have to, innit?
Yeah, exactly. So look, I bought our first property, it was actually 24 years ago. In December 2001, we purchased a freehold house in Yorkshire but I never read the legal pack.
Yeah.
And I was actually lucky I never got stung. But we ended up making a mistake where we bought a studio flat in Hampstead, and we didn't read the legal pack on it. And it wasn't actually a studio flat. It was more of a HMO room with a kitchen in it, and it was sold on a lease. So it was undersized, and you couldn't get a normal mortgage on it. And I think the flat was only just over 10 meters squared. And, you know, we've ended up had to take a loss for a little bit. We ended up flipping it later on for some money. But it just goes to show how important it is to have someone just to speak to, just run your deals through, and just some basic stuff. You know, we've ended up, even when it comes to lettings, there's some tenants you should let to and some tenants you shouldn't.
Do you know what? That as well, because obviously we would just coming to the end of our development. Obviously, the HMO is going to be complete in, I think, the next 2 to 4 weeks. And I don't think I went through the numbers, but for those of you that want to know, we purchased it for 270 or 280. How much was it? So we purchased it for 280. The build cost was 160, and the GDV is 550. And obviously it's a high spec HMO. And then we've had like loads of people reach out for social housing. And from the stories that I've heard from Malkit and you know, Sanjay and whatnot, and these are telling me, I don't want to put social housing tenants in a high spec HMO, and then 3 years later, the profit that I've made over those 3 years, have to put it back into the HMO because it's been ruined.
So when it comes down to any type of tenant, you have to deem the risk with it. So if it's a HMO, typically you have 3 types of tenants. Obviously, you've got the professional working tenants, you've got student HMOs, you've got DSS, local housing allowance, social housing. So I'll categorize them all together, and they're different types of management that's needed for it. Obviously, the latter one requires a lot more management, and if it's not managed right by the people that are operating that HMO, it could be quite detrimental to the owner of that property. And people fail to realize, when someone says to you, I've got you guaranteed rent, I'll give you the property back as what I say, that is only guaranteed by what the company owns. If a company owns nothing but is just leasing properties to someone, your guarantee is nothing.
Yeah.
And I always say to people, there's only 2 levels where someone can guarantee the rent. One's local government, one's national government. And those are the 2 bodies that will never go bankrupt. Anyone else, you can just fold the company overnight, and the liability is limited to the company, so that if that company is no longer around, you know, you're not going to have any monies there. Now, before we finish off, just reflecting on yourself, you actually came from Global Academy.
Yeah.
No experience in videography. You've now worked probably with some of the best brands in the UK. Rolls-Royce.
Yeah.
Done events in Harrods, Chimay, Tom Hartley. I saw you had a video that you went into Lotus, and you managed to get through to the marketing team after doing a promo video.
Yeah.
Where's the limit for what you're actually doing with your craft?
It's been a crazy journey, to be fair, and yeah, kind of, I guess you could call it fate that I ended up in videography, or, you know, with cameras, or content. But yeah, I think now obviously we started 7 Media, and we're just looking to take it as far as we can go. You know, I've always been very ambitious. I've always been someone that just keeps going forward, and that's why I think I'm here, because, you know, when Hardeep called me and he said he's looking for a videographer, I had no experience. in my head, I'm just like, the opportunity's there, might as well take it. So I think with Seven Media, and with what we're currently doing, we're just gonna keep going and just take it as far as we can go, literally. So it's been a crazy journey, and literally what? So 2 years ago, yeah, 2 years ago, I was finishing school, and today, obviously, £1 million property portfolio and a media agency that's worked with some very big names.
You're missing out the fact that you're from Albanian descent.
Yeah.
From collaborating with us, you probably didn't know we had so many Albanian contacts. We've ended up going back to Albania 2 years back to back. You've ended up going to the Crime Ministry for those that are listening.
What I remember, yeah, this was like, I guess I'd only known you guys for I think 2 months at that point, and we was in a restaurant with obviously your builder, and he was like, "Oh, we should go Albania, watch Albania versus Poland," and you guys, were like, yeah, we should go, and then all three of you just looked at me. He was like, "Ronnie, do you want to come?" Like, all right. It was like, yeah, the UEFA vice president's invited us. So we went and watched, literally 2 months of knowing you guys. We went and watched Albania versus Poland, and then stayed in the, we was in the director's box. We met the Prime Minister of Albania. We met obviously the vice president of UEFA, Armand Duka, and then like loads of other Albanian businessmen. Like we were sat next to, some guy sat next to me was like, "I'm the biggest florist in Albania." Like just loads of random businesses, and yeah, that is it was actually quite crazy. That's why I feel like it was fate that it all worked out the way it did. So then, yeah, be connected with someone that's worked with so many Albanians and whatnot, and then end up going back to Albania and doing a mastermind there and meeting the Prime Minister of Albania.
Yeah, that's been a surreal journey. But look, Ronnie's only 20 years old, and our journey and Ronnie's journey is far from over. But the good news for you guys is we're actually looking to scale up what we're doing, sharing this knowledge that is actually what we've done with Ronnie, Hardy, and with many of the other investors that we've been working with. We want to share our journey, our knowledge, give you guys the platform to build your projects and hopefully lead to some financial freedom, allowing you to pursue your goals. Now, if this is of interest to you, click the link in the description, get involved. If you've liked this video, well, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like button, leave a comment. We're going to be back each and every week with a new video.